Welcome everybody to the OpenUSD Insiders live stream. Welcome to my co-host here, Eric, aka Strainflow. Hey, Eric.
Hey, good to see you.
This one, we started a couple minutes late because this episode is coming in super hot, like sizzling hot. We have GTC Paris happening in 2 weeks. The whole team right now is all galvanized. We're all focusing on a lot of great activities that are happening around GTC Paris. And do not stress if you don't live near Paris or you're not in Europe and you can't attend. There's some great stuff there for everybody, including the opening keynote. If you hit that link with your QR code, or you can just search for NVIDIA GTC Paris, you'll be given kind of the overall page for GTC Paris, including leading off with the keynote day and time, which you can easily add to your own calendar. So that's available for everybody. Depending on how late you want to stay up, I think it's 2 in the morning in Pacific time, but a little earlier if you're on the East Coast and other parts of the world. Anyway, it is worth staying up for. It's going to be mind-blowing as always. Jensen and the team have been working very hard. I can't believe it's already almost upon us with 2 weeks to go. Super exciting. So definitely leverage that. For people who are just joining now, this episode, we're going to cover some recent announcements that were just made at GTC Computex in Taipei. Super exciting stuff. Eric's going to go through some of that stuff. We're going to touch on a few of those things in the slides in a minute. But the real focus of the show, we have 2 awesome, very special guests. We're going to cover Cosmos Reason, which is very exciting. We have a great presentation prepared by one of my colleagues. We're going to be able to take your questions live. So stay tuned for that. We're going to dive into Cosmos. First, let's go through some of these announcements because they are really applicable to a lot of people watching. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, say hi, and let us know where you're watching from. Okay, so on GTC, at GTC Paris in a couple of weeks, these are sessions. This QR code will bring you to sessions specifically around industrial AI and robotics. So this is what we call our playlist. So for people who are really paying attention to certain verticals or industries, these QR codes will really help you understand what's going on relating that topic. So very exciting companies you'll see here, some of whom have been on this live stream, many of whom we talk a lot about on LinkedIn. So hopefully you're following the NVIDIA Omniverse LinkedIn page. So those sessions are there. You can rewatch this live stream afterwards if you need to pause on this and get that QR code. One of the most exciting things at GTC Paris, and I know, Eric, you've been involved with this stuff in the past, is these trainings and certifications.
Yeah.
These are amazing resources for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're sitting down not only with experts in this area, but also your developer colleagues from around the world who are taking these trainings at the same time. It's such a great networking opportunity, a great place to learn. Eric, I mean, is there a better way to learn than sit down with some of these folks?
No, then hands-on. No, that's the best way to learn. And I even think at a conference, it's just even nice to sit down.
You know? You just added one more to the list. That's another good reason. I haven't even thought of that, but that's true. And also, it's super affordable. So go ahead and check out if you're going to be there. Definitely recommend you check out the trainings and certifications that are available. You have to pre-register for that stuff because we have to make sure we have the seats and the equipment. Everything's there provided for you, which is super turnkey. Another great reason to get involved there. Okay, we have some great blogs and stories that our producer Amelia will be posting in the chat as I make these quick announcements. We have NVIDIA powers humanoid robot industry with cloud to robot computing platforms or physical AI. Obviously, physical AI is what we're focusing on at GTC March, GTC Taipei, and GTC Paris. There's a lot of content specifically around physical AI. It's a really exciting time in the world for this. This blog will give you the latest insight on how NVIDIA is powering that revolution. We have another blog here on NVIDIA Omniverse Digital Twins are helping Taiwan manufacturers drive the golden age of industrial AI. Highly recommend that as well. That QR code is there. Again, you could watch this live stream afterwards on YouTube to pause on these QR codes. This is super exciting. So this blueprint is not out yet, but it will be out very shortly, and you get further information at this QR code. This is a blueprint for AI factory digital twins. Eric, really quick, how do we define blueprint? It basically is, it makes things a lot easier to get started, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can think of it as a blueprint or a roadmap, or it's really just kind of it's kind of a description of how you can, a template, of how you can get started with this technology.
Yeah, so really reduces the ramp up time to doing this kind of work. So highly recommend you check out these blueprints. This one will be coming out soon. There's another one, AI Blueprint for Video Search and Summarization. It's now available to deploy video analytics AI agents across industries. Leverage that QR code to go right to that link. I think we'll also post a link in the chat. If you are messing around with some of this stuff, let us know in the chat too. We'd love to hear what your feedback is and experiences so far, and if you have any questions. We obviously official support, depending on what technology you're using, can be either on the official and video support forums. It could be on the GitHub. It could be on Hugging Face, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And it could be on the Discord server if you're looking for user-to-user support. We have an amazing community there, always open to helping each other. Here's another blog, curating synthetic data sets to train physical AI models with NVIDIA Cosmos Reason, which is what we'll be talking about today. This is super exciting. So we've covered Cosmos a few times. We're gonna take a step back and high level in a minute when we introduce our guests and talk about what Cosmos is. But today we're gonna be focusing on Cosmos Reason.
And is this also as well? Groot Dreams? This looks like a video from Groot Dreams. Is that right?
I believe it is. We can have Amelia confirm in the chat, but I think you're right.
Yeah. This stuff is amazing, by the way. I can't wait to talk about this some more. There are a lot of amazing announcements around, I don't know, just how to train embodied AI, and especially in a lot of focus on humanoid. Yep, because and this stuff applies to more than humanoid. Don't get me wrong, but you have to be able to do so much to get humanoids to work that the technology they're having to develop for humanoids is helping everyone in the robotics ecosystem. It's
really fascinating. The pace of advances is really staggering. Okay, and we have another one here. TSMC optimizes semiconductor defect classification using VLMs and VFMs. There's not a QR code for this one, but we have a link we'll put in the chat. Feel free to also engage with us on Discord if you have any questions on this. We actually have a thread on the specific live stream if you want to talk to other viewers that are watching it specific on this hour today. And then I think this may be the last one, designing AI factories using OpenUSD and SimReady assets. Obviously, leveraging existing assets, SimReady assets, is super helpful also for helping, like a blueprint in terms of the template, helping you get started with as least friction as possible. So your team could really get going really quickly. Okay, I think that's it for these. One more. Here is our resource links. These are, we'll post this also at the end of the live stream, but this helps you, number one, events. This is their QR code that will bring you to our add event page, which shows you all of our upcoming live streams, our office hours, the study groups, the keynote that I mentioned earlier for GTC. All that stuff's in our calendar, and you can easily add your own calendar by leveraging that add event link. You can get through the QR code. I mentioned the official forums that's used for support, for official support from the NVIDIA team. For most tech, you're going to leverage the forums. There are some exceptions there. Sometimes you need to use the GitHub for Isaac Lab, for example, or potentially GitHub. Hugging Face for Cosmos Reason. We'll talk about that in a minute. There's a QR code for the Discord server, which I mentioned earlier. An amazing community of developers standing by to help you from the community. And obviously, our community page at that last link is where you can read more about some of our ambassadors who are also very active on the Discord server and who are also attending GTC Paris. There's a few of them that are going to be going. So if you're going to GTC Paris, let us know. We have a GTC channel in the Discord server. If you're attending GTC Paris, we'd love to know. Maybe plans are brewing for a little meetup there if those are people are interested. So let's chat about that there. All right, without further ado, I want to introduce these amazing guests we have here. Let me stop sharing my screen. All right, Eric. So I know you just met these folks a minute ago. I've had the pleasure of having warm up, at least with Joel, and you guys are in for a big treat. Really nice presentation, a lot of visuals. Let's bring him on the stage now. Joel, there you are. Hey, Joel.
Hey, everybody.
You also win the weekly favorite office environment.
Yeah,
I love it.
I know. This is a pandemic special. It's a
looks like a great place to work. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. So we have a colleague here. Also, Max is going to be joining us. But why don't you introduce yourself? Let everybody know kind of what your focus and your background is and what you're going to be covering today.
Oh boy. So I'm a product manager at NVIDIA focused on teaching robots how to work in the real world. And I'm actually going to talk a lot about that today, but I came from film and games. It's like,
all right.
Video games.
Yeah, me too, man. That's awesome. That's great. There's obviously a lot of parallels, a lot of synergy there with those industries. So very cool. So we are very excited. Before Joel dives into his full presentation, Eric and I are going to talk about some latest announcements with Computex. But before that,
Yeah.
we have another colleague here, Max. Well, I'll wait. I think he's away off camera now. So Max, when you're ready, you can show your camera and I'll bring you back up. But Max is going to help us with anybody who has any specific questions on the tech involved, which Joel is going to be showing.
Well, and I think we have the perfect combo here because Joel, as a product manager, he understands the strategy. He understands like all those high level questions. And then Max, he wrote the paper on this and did he's one of the engineers, essentially, or researchers behind this. So
and here he is.
There he is. So he can answer those detailed questions,
The legend himself. Max, thank you so much for joining us. Eric just gave you a nice little intro, and we're going to post a link to that paper he referenced, which we're going to dive into after the announcements. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you want to cover today.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Max. I've been working with Joe and other folks at the media as a research scientist. Yeah, we've been pushing really hard on this technology called Cosmos Reason, and I believe Joe will share all the exciting details about it.
Okay, awesome.
Don't let Max make discount himself. He did write the paper.
I think the audience is. I'm so glad people who are tuning in today. I think you're gonna be blown away, but we're gonna show off in a few minutes. So we have the great dream team here to help cover all your questions. Before we start, we just finished GTC Computex in Taipei. Very exciting news and announcements. Look at this from. Great username also, learner. Super excited to learn about these announcements. So Eric, a lot went down over the past couple of weeks, and let's bring people up to speed.
Yeah, so there were a lot of big announcements at Computex, and let's just start with talking about Groot. So this is the GitHub page for Groot, and they've announced that Groot N 1.5 is coming out. And it's essentially just even better foundation models for working with humanoids. And while these foundation models are built around humanoids, you can actually refine them on like just a manipulator or probably other things as well. And so even if you're working with manipulators and that sort of thing, you can use this foundation model and adapt it and refine it to some other kind of robot you want to use. And it's so cool that it's open source, and it's so cool that it's just getting better all the time. And I think a lot of the reason it's getting better is because they're using this tool. They're using Groot Mimic, which we've talked about before, but they're also using Groot Dreams, which I believe is based off of Cosmos Reason. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I think it is, but basically they have these new synthetic data tools they're using to generate even more high quality data to improve these foundation models. And so they're getting much, much better with every iteration. There's also, I'm sorry if that's flashing.
That's okay.
So Isaac Lab 2.2 will be coming out, and it's just getting there. I believe that will have some integration with Newton. So if you're excited about trying out the new physics engine Newton, then we all can't wait for Isaac Lab, that next version to come out. And then another big announcement with Isaac Sim is that there were a lot of big announcements with Isaac Sim, but one in my mind, the one I've been just dying to tell people is that Isaac Sim is becoming more open source. And so there are still some elements in Kit that aren't open source, but Isaac Sim as a whole will be open source and it'll be on GitHub. So if there's some feature you've just been dying to add to Isaac Sim, now you can do it. So that'll be great. And of course we all love openness, right? And
super exciting. We've seen so many people just post how thankful they are and appreciative and just excited that NVIDIA has taken these steps. So that's great.
And also they're going to be adding support for this thing called Brev. If you haven't heard of Brev, it's basically like if you've seen GeForce Now with the video game streaming, it's kind of like that, but for Isaac Sim. So so if you have like a Mac or some computer with you can't quite run Isaac Sim yet. That's going to change with this Brev integration. You'll be able to hop onto Brev and just kind of use Isaac Sim on demand through that. So there's some other stuff. I mean, Isaac Sim is just this. Yeah. Once again, it'll be using Newton. And the cool thing about Newton coming to Isaac Sim is that means you have access to it from Isaac Lab as well. And then finally, they talked about Cosmos Reason. And this is the paper. I believe we'll be linking to it. But it is so cool. I think of it as, so, okay, Groot Mimic lets you, so if you've ever trained like an image classification model, you need to do all these data augmentations, right? Like you flip images, you crop images, you do all these things, you change the color and saturation hue to kind of take a relatively small data set and make it bigger and to make your models more robust. Well, Groot Mimic was already doing that with just taking, let's say you have a robot pick up an apple. Well, it would reverse the apple and put it on the other side of the table. And Groot Mimic can it's kind of like flipping images. It's the way I think of it, but in 3D and in a lot more complicated, tough way to do. But you can augment that data set. Well, Groot Dreams does that through spatial reasoning. And so what it does is you can just give it a picture of a scene, and in a one I saw, there was like a bottle of mustard, and you can say, just with a language prompt, say, put that bottle of mustard in the bin, and Cosmos will just take that single image and turn that into a video through magic of the robot putting the bottle into a bin. And you can make up data through text prompts. And a lot of that is thanks to this really cool tool, Cosmos Reason, that understands the world well enough to know that the bottle's to the left and the bin's to the right. And if this is what you have, he just understands how the world works. And anyway, I don't want to talk about it too much, just because we have two people here who know a lot more about it than I do, that you want to hear this stuff from. And I'm so pumped to have them on. I didn't really know much about it. And I read through the paper this morning before this live stream. And my mind is just, I don't know, the number of applications I'm thinking of and like how cool it is. And it's just, it's amazing. That's all I got to say. So with that, let's meet the real people.
Super exciting stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're going to cover now what we've been teasing for the last several minutes, and that is Cosmos Reason. And Joel has a presentation, and let me bring that up on the screen.
Hey, Edmar, before I show my slides, could you play the video?
Oh, yeah. Good call.
Yeah. The video. I love that. How the video.
Okay, here we go. So we're going to watch about a minute and 20 seconds, I think, of this one, right? Joel?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 1 minute, 26 seconds, if we can.
Okay, here we go. Buckle up, everybody.
For 60 years, Software 1.0, code written by programmers, ran on general-purpose CPUs. Then, Software 2.0 arrived, machine learning neural networks running on GPUs. This led to the big bang of generative AI, models that learn and generate anything. Today, generative AI is revolutionizing $100 trillion in industries. Knowledge enterprises use agentic AI to automate digital work.
Hello, I'm James, a digital human.
Industrial enterprises use physical AI to automate physical work. Physical AI embodies robots like self-driving cars that safely navigate the real world, manipulators that perform complex industrial tasks, and humanoid robots who work collaboratively alongside us. Plants and factories will be embodied by physical AI, capable of monitoring and adjusting its operations or speaking to us. NVIDIA builds 3 computers to enable developers to create physical AI. The models are first trained on DGX. Then, the AI is fine-tuned and tested using reinforcement learning physics feedback in Omniverse. And the trained AI runs on NVIDIA Jetson AGX robotics computers. NVIDIA Omniverse.
Okay, that was exactly 126. Did I get that right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Nice. Thank you.
That's
okay,
great.
so So yeah, Jensen makes AI sound pretty simple, and conceptually it is, but in practice, we're still early days. Every day there are car manufacturers that are training AI systems. They're roaming cities, collecting data. You've got operators training humanoids like through teleoperation, and they're all showing tons of great progress. But the truth is, like, it's still not enough. So, Edmar, could you please share my slides now?
Here we go.
Awesome. So physical AI is super duper hard to develop. Then the biggest hurdle, we think, is data strategy. Teaching these systems like robots requires like huge amounts of real world data to cover all the countless scenarios that they need to master specific situations and use cases. And then capturing human demonstrations and feedback for training is expensive and labor intensive. For example, humanoid developers, like I had mentioned, rely on hundreds of operators performing thousands of repetitive demonstrations. Autonomous vehicle developers, so drive like millions of miles to train their systems. That's a significant time sink. Tons of computational resources, financial investment, et cetera, et cetera.
And you have to drive until you get like those edge cases, right?
Right.
Totally. What you're trying to get is like that really wild thing that some other driver is doing, for example. And how many hours?
You need to get that driver to like cut you off when it's raining. And then can the driver also cut you off when it's sunny? That would be really handy.
And they've got to cut you off Detroit style, and they've got to cut you off LA style.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because that actually like is kind of dangerous, you know, and prone to errors. And then improper training or inadequate safety measures can lead to like catastrophic failures, which nobody wants. Now the catastrophic failures for like a humanoid robot could be the robot just tips over and you've lost a multi-$100,000 prototype. It's just gone.
Yeah. NVIDIA still won't buy me one. Can you believe it?
Well, Christmas is coming. But what if AI developers could decouple themselves from some of the financial, the time, the risk constraints that they do face in the real world? Like, what if? And that's where world foundation models come in. So a world foundation model, and this is Cosmos, but a world foundation model is akin to how our brains actually map the real world, how we and our brains map out how the real world works. So just like how I cannot see or remember everything, despite my best efforts, I have to form like a simplified mental model based on my experiences. And that simplified model, like that helps me make decisions and predict what will happen and plan my actions. My brain would literally, well, all of our brains would literally explode if we carried the whole world in our heads. And so we use this simplified version of like key concepts and relationships. And Max and his team figured out like, well, we could do the same thing synthetically. World models in AI could work the same way. And they'll learn to represent the world in a compressed and abstract way so that they can remember what they've seen, predict what might happen next, and act in ways that make sense in the real world. That's really important, that the ways that they act make sense. You know, we don't want your autonomous vehicle to cut other drivers off. Unless you're in Detroit. I don't know.
That's right.
So over on the left of this slide, we have pre-trained world foundation models. We call them WFMs. And that's like a core generalist model. So our team spent many hours, many thousands of hours training that. And then we've put it out there into the public. It's open source. And then we expect, though, that for for practitioners, AI developers, machine learning researchers, that they will need to take and post-train it. And post-training is the same as fine-tuning. We just train in the world of physical AI. But the important thing is that when you post-train, you're making that model now work for your specific like robot world, or your specific car world, or your specific autonomous drone world, and so on. So let me go back
real quick, because you mentioned Cosmos, and one thing that I get a lot is Cosmos a single model, like AI model, or is it more like a collection of AI models?
That is a great setup, and I'm gonna answer that question in like 30 seconds. But it is a platform. It's a collection of models.
Okay.
And I think by in 20 minutes, it will make sense why we have a collection and how they work together. But before I go there, let me just talk a little bit about where we were like 8 years ago. So in 2017, Google introduced transformers, replacing sequential analysis with parallel processing. I think that this let models like BERT grasp the word relationships contextually rather than through rigid rules. OpenAI's GPT-1 soon showed scaling potential, but it's like text generation was a little primitive. That this brought on some debates, like, well, are these systems learning meaning, or is it like advanced pattern matching? In 2021, DALL-E bridge text and images was looking a little sus, like the outputs defied physics at time. There was some impossible lighting. There were floating objects. Meanwhile, Tesla's Optimus robots was facing real-world physics problems like torque limits, material stresses, balance challenges that didn't exist in the digital models. And that exposed this real critical gap, which was that like abstract synthetic knowledge really couldn't match physical competence. So if we move forward into 2023, Anthropic launched Claude Pro and OpenAI refined ChatGPT. Now these models are starting to reason a little bit before answering. NVIDIA, like this was Max and I, we entered the fray with Edify, and we were starting to push boundaries on multimodal generative AI. Last year, Llama 3 came out, Gemini, OpenAI's O3 emerged. So models are now getting smarter. They're multimodal. They're starting to reason a bit more like how our human brains do. Last year, we were also starting to, like we as a community, we're starting to build agents and iteratively refine responses through reward loops. Each correct action's getting that positive reward and reinforcing the behavior. And then over many, many, many episodes, the agent can converge onto like the best decision. But questions remain: how to cross that chasm from pixels to physics understanding. And so if you ask me, 2025 is another step function year for us. We saw like late 2024, early 2025, DeepSeek R1 just crushed it with reasoning, and possibly better than humans in some scenarios. And so that was like a wonderful opportunity for NVIDIA to launch Cosmos, which we did at CES in January. And it's a world foundation model platform for physical AI. Okay, so what is a Cosmos world foundation model platform? Machines need physically grounded models that understand the real world. And the first model is called Predict. And there are three. The first of the three is Predict. So Predict generates video sequences. They look like video sequences, but they're really like world states from text or video prompts. And we normally see developers post-training it or fine-tuning, but we call it post-training, so that they can have their domain-specific use case. And then the next one is Cosmos Transfer. So Cosmos Transfer can predict video and modify it, but like think about modifying just the weather or the time of day, and that to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago is like stretching out some of that data to augment, a huge amount of real data with edge cases. So Cosmos Transfer takes video inputs. It can even take like LiDAR and outputs physically accurate content. And I'm actually going to show some in just a second.
And that all with different textures and different lighting and.
Oh yeah.
And the lighting I'm seeing shadows. It looks like that's amazing.
Yeah, and having been a person that spent 20 years making films and video games, I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think of it from a perspective of like, if I'm going to train a model to operate in the virtual world, but then if I want to transfer a vision model to the real world, I need a ton of visual variety.
Oh my gosh.
So
much.
a ton, right?
Yeah.
And up until this came out, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I was completely overwhelmed. And now I'm like, oh, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
So
then the third model in the platform is Reason. So Reason it's a multimodal reasoning model. So it processes that visual input, runs a chain of thought process to reason through all of the physical interactions and scenarios, and then basically delivers the best response. It's like your helper. It is giving you back the best response that you want. And I think developers can use it out of the box and get pretty far. But my guess is most folks will want to post-train it for their specific use case. And so
and all three of those are available now.
They're all available now. They're all open source.
So are they all in one GitHub repository, or are there 3 repositories?
Yeah, if you can, I'll go there in just a second. You can go to
sure.
GitHub, and there's like a Cosmos, Predict, Transfer, and Reason sections, but they're all grouped under one, which is NVIDIA Cosmos.
Cool.
Okay, so Reason's ambition is to endow AI with an intuitive understanding of the physical reality that we live in. It's a customizable, multimodal AI reasoning model. It is purpose-built to understand motion and object interactions and space-time relationships. It'll interpret visual input. It'll predict outcomes based on the given prompt, and then rewards the optimal decision. In doing so, it grounds reasoning in real world physics. It needs to be completely physics-based. And so it will generate clear context-aware responses in natural language, however. So, you'll get it back in a way that you can understand it as a human. So with inputs as videos plus text or even just video on its own and some instruction, you'll get back this text response. And I really like that it's bridging this gap between that abstract knowledge I had mentioned earlier in our timeline, and then embodied interaction. And in it, we call some of its capabilities physical common senses. So you have space, time, and fundamental physics. And that is bridged to embodied reasoning, so sensory processing, action prediction, and constraint adherence. And that allows Cosmos Reason to equip AI systems all over the world with that ability to perceive the real world in a way that's truly useful for making good decisions on what to do next. And speaking of making good decisions, so we built a small app to test our assumptions. And so what you're looking at here is actually a real video on the left. This was a real dash cam footage of driving down like a very nice looking neighborhood. And then the videos on the right are synthetically generated using Cosmos Transfer. And just in case anyone's curious, I made these videos in like a couple minutes last night. And so the video on the top left, the prompt was, okay, take my input video, which is the one on the far left, but make it winter. I did a spring scene, like spring rain on the top right. I did a sunset on the left, and then I went like crazy, and I'm like, well, what if we were in like a dusty town in Colorado or something? Like, look, it's even got like dust coming up off of the hood.
That's very dusty.
It's super dusty. Personally, I could do without the dust. Okay, so what we want is reason, though. So we're going to generate tens of thousands of these videos, right? We want to augment our data set. But I am pretty sure I will not have enough time to look at every single one of these videos and really critique it. So my very first use case for reason is actually go and look at all the videos that Transfer made and let me know if these are physically plausible. Like, will they help or hurt my post-training that I want to do? And so we did it. And so here's the thing. I went and clicked Video Analyzer, and I dropped in one of the videos, and Video Analyzer basically built out a like a prompt template for me. And what I'm going to ask it here, in addition to that prompt template, is like, is this good for training? Like, are there any anomalies in this video that I can't even perceive because I'm not really looking at it that carefully? But reason, let me know. You tell me if I can use this video or not for my future post-training. And so we're going to let this run. And depending on your GPU configuration, this could take, it could take 10 seconds. It could take 30 seconds. It could take a minute. But there's our nice video. And I think I'm going to get my answer here. And it said, hey, well, first off, here's the whole prompt template. And I'm giving it a lot of instructions saying, what I don't care about. And I asked it to think in a certain way. And here it is reasoning, like, okay, well, let's look at all of the components in this video. And then it succinctly answers, no anomalies. This video is good. So now let's try that dusty scene. Now I did like mention the dust, although actually what I should have mentioned was that the cars were looking a little like they almost like wavy a little bit on the right. So and I'm gonna play the video.
I was so focused on the dust off the hood that I didn't really notice that the cars were wavy.
Yeah. So like and I don't want to give away like the ending here, but I will because I can't help myself. But yeah, Reason figured out, you know what, the dust is like weird, but the cars are a problem. So it went
mention
through
that the dust is a little weird.
Process. Maybe I have to go back and look at the results. But if you scroll all the way down here, we'll see that there was just something off with the cars on the right. And when I went back and looked at the video, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? That's right. And it's like those little, like 1,000 little cuts. You don't want those little, even just little things that could corrupt the performance of when you post train for your specific domain. All right, so we know that the springtime video is good to go. And now the next use case that I'm using Reason for in this case, or annotate it as the content for post-training, because captioning in post-training is tremendously important. It's like, if you could pick all of the different parameters, if you ask me, of all the different parameters you could pick to adjust or spend time on, I would spend time on captioning for post-training.
Why is that?
It just, look at all of the data, all those tokens in there. That's a lot of information. Maybe Max, if you can speak to this, being our researcher, maybe you have like a really smart reason why the annotations for post-training are so important.
Yeah, so a lot of the times, for example, when we want to generate videos or synthetic data for a specific use case, the way we interact with the models are through text. And the more detailed the information we provide, the better the model will be able to follow your intention. And that capability is actually trained from very well curated data, like really well annotated videos plus the really detailed annotations. And that's why it's really critical to give the model such a capability.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so the first use case was like, let's use Cosmos Transfer, make a whole bunch of videos, and then critique it, right? Run the system at thousands upon thousands of videos, and then pick out the ones that are great.
And it's kind of generating its own. It's not just the videos; it's also generating the annotations, like you said. So you can have kind of whatever annotated data set you might need to train a vision model, or with these predict, if you could probably produce as many videos as you want from one base video or from one base demonstration, or wow, it's just endless high quality data, training data.
Yeah, and no rendering. It's generated. It looks like rendering, but it's generated. Yeah. It's astounding. Amazing. Okay, so where do you go? How do you get started? Edmar, could you please share this Hugging Face link with?
I will do. I'll put it in the chat right now for everybody. And if you missed the chat, if you're watching this afterwards, we'll add this also to the description of the video. So check the description below.
Cool. So, and I just showed the model card. I scanned through the model card really quickly. It is licensed under the NVIDIA Open Model License. But please do go into the Hugging Face community and hit us up. Max and I are in there 24/7. And from Hugging Face, click the code link and it'll take you to GitHub, which is where all of our models and all the data is stored. And so here you could just get started right away with inference. You could literally grab this script and run it and start to infer. Now, I think you're going to want to try post-training. And to try post-training, we've built some pretty handy guides. We've got supervised fine-tuning and reinforcement learning recipes.
What does SFT stand for? Can you remind me?
Yes, supervised. And then RL is reinforcement learning.
I'm sorry, you broke up for me on SFT. It's supervised.
Supervised fine-tuning.
Fine-tuning, okay.
Yeah. And in here we've got recipes on how you can just basically get started. But also, I do recommend running our evaluation and benchmarking scripts to see how well even just the base core reason model is functioning against other reason models that may exist out in the market that you want to evaluate against. Anyway, it's all there in GitHub, and again, you can get to it from Hugging Face, but Edmar will also share the GitHub link.
Yes, I just posted all the blog, the GitHub, and the Hugging Face links.
Awesome. Thank you. I know I just scanned through this really quickly. I'm just looking at time and I want to make sure we can answer questions. Last but not least, this is just the beginning for physical AI reasoning models. We're going to be releasing more and more in the future. We really want to hear from you to be able to continuously improve our models. So make sure you follow us on Hugging Face. But also check out this blog post written by one of our researchers and our marketing manager. This blog post could be good to share with your community who, may not be as technical as you, that just want to dive into or understand, well, what's a World Foundation model? Why should I care? Because, not everyone's like an AI researcher, it turns out. A lot of people aren't.
I would even say most people aren't, right?
Yeah. That was the joke.
Well, I think that's great. It's a really good point too. We have a lot of people in the community who do work in different positions and not developing positions at companies, and always looking to see what tech they can leverage to help their goals and their team. So I put all those links in there. If anybody missed a link, feel free to type in the chat. It's super helpful, and it's really great that you shared, Joel, that the team is really looking for feedback, because that is really kind of our mission, right? Is to really listen to the developer community, to companies, see how we can help them achieve what was literally impossible yesterday. That's kind of our go-to here. So hopefully everyone takes advantage of that. And the best way to interact, you mentioned, okay, so the Hugging Face.
Hugging Face. Yep.
Also the GitHub page, those two places. And there's really we're not really steering to one type of question to one place or another to the other, right? We're watching both.
Yeah. I think Hugging Face is a great landing place. And like I had mentioned, like Max and I and others are on it. We're watching any community feedback, and want to respond and interact in real time if possible. We get then on the GitHub side, if there are like, merge requests, we'll review them and then suck them in from the community.
Great.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, so we do have a couple of questions. This is great time. We have about 10 minutes to go, so we can take some questions and comments. If you're watching and you've been shy about posting any kind of feedback or questions, do not be shy. There's no question that is not worth asking. Even if we can't handle it today, we'll make a note of how to get back to you on it, or where you can also ask. Okay, but I see a couple here. One we saw a little earlier. This one came in from LinkedIn, from a gentleman by the name of William Lee. So William's asking, I believe there were challenges or shortcomings, objects appearing and disappearing with your World Foundation model. Have you been able to solve these issues? Can you give more insights to how you're grounding your different WFM?
Right. So at CES we released Predict 1, and then we also saw various like hallucinations, and then picked up a whole bunch of new training to augment that, add data to try and reduce hallucinations or other like visual artifacts that are not physics based. And the team has been training Predict 2, and we'll be releasing Predict 2 in the pretty soon, in the second half of this year. But these are pretty big changes in quality from Predict 1 to Predict 2. And while I think it would reduce a ton of hallucinations, there's probably going to be those edge cases. And that's where post-training becomes so important, because if you post-train on well-curated data that is for a very specific, we have observed that it really greatly reduces weird hallucinations that you don't want. And one interesting example was cars dropping people off at airports. So the core and this sounds weird, but it's like, oh, this is like a real thing. So the foundation model could kind of do it, but you had like people like walking through a car, like, you know,
Yeah.
luggage, like they're exiting the car, but they're kind of walking through the car at the same time.
Or I could see it making all kinds of mistakes.
Yeah, and so then,
or if you train it with a lot of that data, you might have people getting off the cars in the freeway with that model, because it might know what's the difference between the airport and the freeway, or
right.
Yeah,
And so
all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah.
So when we post-trained, and we post-trained on, I'm going to say like a few hundred hours of footage just of cars dropping people off at the airport, and then using the same text prompt, comparing the foundation model to the post-trained model, was night and day. Like with the post-trained version, and post-training in this case took like a day to do. All of a sudden people got out of cars properly, and they weren't like walking through the back of the car and their legs disappearing and stuff. So I highly encourage experimentation around post-training with the foundation models. And then as the new foundation models arrive, post-train those as well.
Well, I think that's the key, though, is that these are foundation models, right?
Yeah.
And I think some people might think that a foundation model is like a general model that can do anything, when really it's more like a jack of all trades that can do everything, but none of it really that well. And so that post-training is like so critical. Yeah.
Super critical. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. We have another question here from Michael Elliott, also from LinkedIn. Here's a question regarding Earth 2. I dream of connecting this with Earth 2. Is that outlandish? So I don't know. Anything's possible. I don't know. Have you guys heard about any use case like this?
I mean,
I guess it depends on what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do with Earth 2?
I wonder. I don't see why not. I think at the moment I'm hyper focused on whether a car can drive down the road safely or a robot can pick up an apple. But ask me in 6 months.
Yeah. And the other thing too, because this is so accessible, those kind of questions are great, because they're great opportunities for other people in the community to also see what he just asked, and they might be working on something similar. So I really, I think LinkedIn is such a great resource for developers in terms of sharing your work, sharing your successes, sharing your workflow, sharing your questions like that. You'll really be surprised how many people will engage with you. And we also even have private groups. There's a LinkedIn Omniverse group for developers. There's also the Discord server where you can chat with other developers that are leveraging Omniverse, and Cosmos, specific channel we have there. So I would say, also don't let the conversation stop in this live stream. Continue it on to Hugging Face or the GitHub page, or the reference or the other resources I just mentioned, and you'll be surprised. But great question. Thank you for that, Michael. Here's a question from I'll call him a great community champion, a great member of the community, very active on our Discord. Renan, otherwise known as Papa Chuck. Papa Chuck is asking, could you provide examples of how to generate the data sets to achieve the best results?
Oh yeah. So curation, I'll just say first, curation and captioning are mission critical.
What do you mean by curation? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah. So, well, I kind of did it in my slide where I had Reason critique the 4 videos, and then, and I only picked one of them. So
that's just really just only picking the best.
Only picking the best for my use case. Now, maybe another person actually really needed the dusty scene with weird cars. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know their use case, but curation and then captioning the content is absolutely mission critical to generate data sets. So I would say that if I had to pick between a large data set for post-training versus a small, curated, well-captioned data set, I would always pick the smaller data set, even though logically our brains go to, no, I need more data to post-train with. I really don't think that's true. Okay. And I'll tell you why. for the youngsters out there that may not remember NVIDIA Edify from 2024, that the Edify post-training worked really well with like 4 pictures. It didn't need anything more than that.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see Max agreeing with you there. Okay, another question from Papa. Are you guys planning to release chain of thoughts section? I see there are 2 data sets for the smaller 7B model.
Yeah. So chain of thought, and like right now we've got think and answer, which is those 2 use cases I showed. So act as a critique, as a critic, critiquing content, and then captioning. I have another 2 steps to take before releasing, if I understand the question correctly, before releasing the like, okay, make the decisions, the steps of the decisions that the AMR or the robot or the autonomous vehicle needs to take through that chain of thought. And I'm gonna say that over the next 12 months, there'll be versions of Reason that will start to just expose more and more of these capabilities. And the more that the community hits us up with questions and comments and interaction, probably the more it'll make sense and it'll function the way the community is hoping it will.
That's great point and suggestion. And wow, this is a really great question here, or from a LinkedIn user. If you can be precise, what is the difference between physical AI and embodied AI? How does physical AI differ from the early types of AI applied to robotics before the term physical AI became popular? Is it identical to the use of World Foundation model, unlike other AI approaches in robotics?
So I'll give it my best shot, but Max, I wonder if this is the kind of question that might be well suited for you, having been a researcher in this space for a long time. But let me give it like my my product manager attempt here first. So in terms of positioning Cosmos, we came up with the term physical AI to actually to distance ourselves from models that could make videos. Because we're not actually interested in making videos. We're interested in making a simulation of the real world. And so we use the term physical AI for that, even though, and the community has actually shown us this, and it's not surprising that the videos that Cosmos can generate are pretty neat and can be used in different applications. That's why we came up with or use the term physical AI in this context. But maybe Max, you could jump on this one more technically.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's very open-ended, to be honest. From my perspective, physical AI is more geared towards the intelligence that understand physics. Like when you talk about embodied agents, we often refer to robot or human that work around in an environment and they interact with things. But agents can be also digital that works with browsers or any softwares. So that's the definition for agents and embodied agents. And for us, we define the term physical AI. We really want to emphasize the point that the model understands how the world works in terms of physics laws. And that's why maybe part of the reason that we coined up this term physical AI to really emphasize what the direction we're going.
That's a great perspective. It absolutely makes sense. We have another question here from LinkedIn user Jonathan. I'll put that on screen. Do you have teams working on similar physics-informed modeling digital twin projects, not Gen AI, but focus more on energy technologies on our projects? This company, a solid-state hydrogen storage, developed digital twins and simulation models internally, but I could see this type of work being outsourced collaborative in nature with NVIDIA. Where can I find related sources to learn more about work in this realm? So Joel or Max, I'm not sure you might be able to not be answer this, but this might be something I can work with team on following up afterwards.
Yeah, I almost wonder if this is like it gets into Omniverse. Like Omniverse is it's designed to like simulate factories. That I think we actually showed that earlier on in the.
We do. We actually have a great use case. We have been showing off at GTC's leveraging Omniverse to build digital twin of like a data center, which leverages airflow and energy and heat. So I'll share some of those examples. So Jonathan, why don't you do me a favor and hit me up on LinkedIn, and I'll reply to you with some great links. Anyone can reach me on LinkedIn. The easiest way is probably because my name is kind of hard to spell, my last name. If you go to edmar.net, it'll go right to my LinkedIn page, and you can shoot me a message there. So super easy. Or I'm on Discord on the Omniverse Discord server. Gentlemen, I think this has been so great. Oh, we have one question, one last Hail Mary coming in from Farah, who's a great developer in the community. Let's put this on the screen. Thank you, everyone, team. I was wondering, is there a pathway to build a launchable from the Cosmos model that users can interact with it via simple front end or API at a click?
I mean, yeah, I think so. Like that's what I showed actually was our team internally.
She might have missed the very beginning. So
sorry.
I'll try to find that timestamp and send it to you, Farah.
So yeah, our team basically ran the Cosmos model on GPUs, then used a Gradio front end. We have for Predict 1, we have them built as NIMs with NVAIE support. So the developer community that at the enterprise level that want to interact with a NIM that's basically been built to function very well on data center GPUs can actually just download it and start running it. But we also have, if you go to build.nvidia.com, we have some Cosmos examples up there. It's like a playground. Like you can play with the models a little bit and get a feel for how those work.
I'm going to put that link in the chat. That's good. And for those of you who may have missed our previous live streams on Cosmos, we've had a few guests on covering the basics. So we've talked about buildnvidia.com as a great resource. There's a link in the chat right now. But it's just, as we said, at build.nvidia.com. So I don't know if you need the link, but it's there it's there if you need it. Anyway, great. It's a great resource to fool around with stuff like instantly. So I highly recommend that. And we'll post the link to the previous Cosmos live streams also in the description, so you can go back and watch them at your leisure. This has really been fantastic. Joel and Max, I can't thank you enough. And Eric, great conversation all around. Thank you for the community. I've got a video we're going to play at the last couple of minutes here that kind of summarizes all the cool stuff from GTC Taipei. We'll play that as we close out the live stream. But before I do, Joel and Max or Eric, do you guys have any closing thoughts for developers that you want to leave people with?
I'm just excited for conversing with this community on Hugging Face.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you said, I think your words were, we're there 24/7. So we're going to hold you to that. Yeah. So someone post a note there at 3 a.m. Pacific. Let's do it. But we are watching that. That's great. And I really recommend, I can't tell you how serious Joel's being, though, and that the team is watching all those posts, interacting and gathering your feedback, reporting them back to the internal development teams and prioritizing based on all the different stuff we're hearing in the community. So in other words, don't be so quiet on the, if you're leveraging this tech, please, we want to hear from you. Share your experience with other users. This has been an amazing community over the past few years because of the developers out there, not only using the tech, but also sharing with others their experience, their workflows, their learnings. So thank you all so much for out there in the world doing that stuff, and keep on doing it. Max, do you have any Max or Eric, anything you want to close out with? Words of wisdom?
Oh, I think Joe summarized everything really well. Try it out. Let us know. We'll try our best to meet your demand.
That's awesome. And Max, thank you. So Max came in literally, I think I messaged him about an hour before we went live. And I said, Max, do you have time to join us? So thanks, Max, for joining us last second. Really appreciate that. Eric, how about you? What do you think? What's your take on this as a developer?
You know, up until this morning, I thought it was kind of like a question of, do you want to use imitation learning or reinforcement learning or supervised and with this Cosmos reason, they're using all of them, and they're using one kind to improve the other kind, and it's really and they're just, I don't know, I think the future for roboticists is bright, and data is going to be easier and easier to generate, and this is just a huge step forward.
Super exciting. Well, thank you. Words of wisdom there from Strainflow, aka Eric. Eric also hangs out on our Discord server. Another good reason for everyone to join our Discord server. I'll put those links on after this great montage video, and then we'll say goodbye. This is a technology montage straight from GTC Taipei. It's about 2 minutes long. Our guests, feel free to drop. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes just to post some links on the screen for people. But thank you both for joining us today.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's dive in and see what this montage looks like. First time I'm seeing it too, so let's take a look together. Wow. You know what blows me away about that video? All the companies that were showcased there. Most of that work was not NVIDIA. That was actually companies leveraging different technologies that we have to do their work. It's really, really fantastic video. Wow, it was. I got goosebumps watching that one. Eric, I thank you once again for joining me today. I'm posting some resources here on the link. Big thanks to Mara from our community team, who helps promote and prepare for these live streams with our news and announcements, and our resource QR codes here that we pasted earlier as well. Again, our events calendar, where you can see the live streams, the office hours, the study groups, the keynotes, the big events are all there. You can add to your calendar easily. The official support forums, our Omniverse Discord server, which is discord.gg/NVIDIA Omniverse, or use this QR code. and our community page where you can read about the ambassadors. A lot of them involved with robotics now, actually. We also just announced some recent ambassadors, including some amazing our first round of student ambassadors. You can read all about them on that page there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I want to also just remind you to check out GTC Paris. We are so excited. Just like GTC in March in San Jose and GTC Taipei, there are going to be some amazing announcements and a great keynote at GTC Paris, which is just 2 weeks away. If you're already going to the Viva Tech conference, your GTC pass is included for free. So nothing else to buy there. And if you do need a pass, it's actually very, very affordable. So it's a very inexpensive pass to take it into if you're in the area. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, the workshops and trainings are another reason to go. But also, even if you go just for the networking alone, I guarantee you will not regret it. So take that first step and check out the GTC Paris page that we showed earlier, and add the keynote to your calendar no matter what. We will post that also on our Discord server as an event. So if you're on a Discord server, you'll also see it there in the events in the top left. Eric, it has been a pleasure once again. Are you involved in the study group today again? Yeah. Okay. Your mic's muted for some reason, but I read your lips. That was a definitely big.
There we go. I unmuted my mic. Yeah, we'll be doing an Isaac Lab study group here in about 20 minutes on Discord. It's cool. Really fun. I'm sure we'll nerd out about Cosmos for a while first, and then we'll talk a little bit about some interesting robotics projects that people are working on.
It's a great place to hang out, and a really, really wonderful group of people from the community. So I highly encourage people to go check that out. It's in 15 minutes on our Discord server. You're watching this live. If you're not watching this live, it's every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific. And it goes about an hour or so. And to get to it, just go to our Discord server, and you would just go to the community room, and you'll see a bunch of people there. You can turn on your webcam if you like. You can unmute your mic if you like, or you can just hang out and just type in the chat. It's all good. All right, well, have a great time in study group today. Thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to find out what everybody thinks about all these crazy announcements on Discord. I'll see everybody there. Otherwise, have a great rest of the week, everybody.
We'll see you.
Bye.